In today's episode, we talk to Tanvi from Filter Coffee. Filter Coffee is a newsletter that hits your inbox with a 2-minute email every morning with business and tech news. Tanvi started Filter Coffee during statewide lockdowns, and it has quickly grown to have over 1,000 subscribers. Among other things, we talk about the importance of taking the first step and learning on the go. Tune in to hear more. Hello, Tanvi. Welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining us.
Hey Vignesh, thank you so much for having me. This is actually my first time doing something like this, and I am just a college student, and I'm very excited and nervous to be here. And thank you so much.
Yeah, I don't think you should nervous. I hope that goes away as we continue talking. But why don't we start off by you telling us about filter coffee?
So basically, Filter Coffee is my newsletter, which I write and which hits your inbox every day at 9 a.m. So it has the latest in business, technology, and all other news that's going on around in the world. So I designed it keeping the corporate crowd or the younger generation in mind who do not like reading newspapers in depth and who just like to brush through news headlines and like to read through apps and not read the news in detail. So this is made keeping that generation in mind so that people can read news on the go.
What's the typical reading time of going through one of your newsletters?
It's depends on the news actually, because if one news article is very detailed, I try to keep it mostly short. So it's from 3 to 4 minutes, or sometimes even 5 minutes, depending on the news article that I'm writing.
Hmm. And I've noticed that you use a lot of gifs and memes in your newsletter, and at least from the stuff that I've read online, that seems to be a bit unique to you. Is that something you do intentionally to appeal to the younger crowd?
Yes, that is the whole point of it. When I first started out 2 months ago, the idea had actually occurred to me like 3 months ago when before I started FC. So I did not immediately want to implement it. I started out by asking a few of my friends and classmates as to what appeals to them the most and whether they read newspapers or not. So the response that I got was very surprising, with most of them telling me that they do not read newspapers at all. And when I asked them why,
I'd like to interject. I also don't read newspapers. Is that surprising to you? I mean, do you read newspapers?
I personally I like reading a lot, but I do not like reading newspapers
Hmm.
because newspapers they can be very upsetting because they usually tend to focus on either politics, which appeals mostly to the older generation, um, and they do not mostly write about inspirational stuff such as technology and business. These are the two topics that they should be focusing on because it appeals to the younger crowd more and they tend to read it more. But when it comes to politics, they're like, we don't want to know about politics, like something like that.
Yeah.
So the whole point of
Uh,
adding GIFs was to appeal to the younger crowd so that people read more of the newsletter. Because
Yeah.
when I first when I first did the survey, people told me that it is because newspapers are boring and because they do not have more pictures and GIFs or something of that sort, and it's just mostly text.
Hmm.
So which just they beat around the bush and it's repetitive most of the time. So adding
Hmm.
GIFs is a way of making it fun for the younger generation because it's always good to start the article with a good laugh because that GIF gives you that.
Yeah, a picture is worth 1,000 words, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I think there are a few things you touched upon that I want to note. One thing is that the younger generation is not interested in politics. That is a bit counterintuitive, right? Because the older generation, especially the retired folks, they don't have a lot to gain or lose depending on which political party rules. But it's the younger professionals that are going to be, like, severely impacted by, I don't know, tax policies or economic decisions and stuff like that. Do you try to include a bit of politics, or do you try to stay away from politics in your newsletter for now?
I completely try to stay away from politics as of now because
Hmm.
the newsletter is mainly focused on technology and business. So
Hmm.
I try to keep it at that and not include politics, religion in it because
Hmm.
people kind of tend to have different views on politics and religion. So I kind of try to stay in the middle with technology and business, like not having an opinion in religion and politics actually helps in a way.
Okay. And I want to talk a bit more about how this idea started, and I also go over a bit of your background. So, as I understand, you're a law student, right?
Yes. First, I was trying for medicine to get into medical school after 12th standard, but that did not actually work out. And after that, I did got my BSc in botany. I
Hmm.
just completed it last year, and I
Hmm.
joined law school this year, and I am pursuing my LLB degree this year.
So that's interesting. So, uh, when you started FC, did your law background help at all? Did you have any subjects that were relevant in your curriculum, or was it like a completely clean slate for you?
It was completely a clean slate for me because whatever I learned in law school and whatever I learned while doing my BSc has absolutely got nothing to do with what I'm doing right now with the newsletter.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't. Don't always need to have a particular background to start something new, right? So that. Uh,
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, so reading about it helped a lot, but the background thingy, no, absolutely not. Started on a clean slate.
And do you remember like a particular moment that inspired you, or was it you said a bit about how you talk to your friends. So, uh, like, did you always want to create a newsletter, or uh, did you uh, just wanted to make something and then newsletter seemed like the right fit for this time?
So I always knew that I wanted something of my own, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And as I said earlier, I liked reading a lot, but I didn't really know how to put that, like how to make content out of it, which appeal to people. So the
Hmm.
newsletter wasn't really what I had in mind in the beginning when I thought about creating something of my own. But then once I was talking to my brother about it, when I told him that news these days is very boring. So then that is when he told me that this is kind of the case in India because
Hmm.
there are many other newsletters which are based in the US which are like FC,
Hmm.
like the Morning Brew, the Hustle. So
Hmm.
I kind of got my idea from there. So what if there was something in India too that helped people to stay updated and still read news without getting bored? And that is when the
Hmm.
idea of FC came into. That is how FC was born.
FC is a great thing, but there is one other aspect I'd like to highlight, which is I don't know if you call them something, but I read some of your stories on Instagram. I think the last one I read was your story on Virgin Atlantic.
Yes.
Yeah, I think those are very interesting for me, and I think like that's most definitely my favorite part about filter coffee. So, do you want to go a bit over that, and what's your thought behind it?
So stories Virgin Atlantic and how Nike got started and how Jeff Bezos started his business are mostly, if you go and look for it, that is only when you know about it. So people
Hmm.
usually don't go and search about Jeff Bezos like when you're bored, right? So that
Yeah.
was a way,
But is that something you do?
that is not what I do. That idea actually came because I didn't just want to put out business stuff there on Instagram because I didn't know what would appeal to the people. But when I uploaded the first Jeff Bezos post, that post did excellent. That post did really, really well. So that is when I got
Hmm.
the idea that something like this might actually work. With this appeals to the younger crowd. And then I uploaded the next post, the Nike post, and like the younger generation is mostly into shoes, especially boys. So
Hmm.
so the Nike post did really well too, and that is how I got the idea. So I'm trying to come up with different stories. There are a lot of stories, by the way, with the untold stories
Hmm.
which people do not know about. And these
Hmm.
stories do really well because people like to know about this but don't have the sources or do not have the patience to read through long articles to know about this. So I try to keep it short with the posts.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
That's really cool. And one a particular aspect of famous people and famous ideas and concepts that I am interested in is what they did before, which didn't work. I think just one example that comes to the top of my mind is that Elon Musk had five failed companies before
Yes.
he started PayPal. So that's one thing that I'm personally interested in that I want to explore, and that's why I start thought of starting this podcast. Uh, so I I was wondering if we could talk about like business failures and famous people and their failed businesses some other time in some other episode.
Yeah.
Um,
Sure.
Tell me about how the process of starting Filter Coffee went. Did you know how to start a newsletter and all the technologies involved, or did you have to learn that and read up on that? And how did that go?
Honestly, I have no background in technology and business because I come from a science background and I'm studying law. So you can imagine how difficult it might have been for me to start everything from scratch. And but everything was a challenge in itself. So because I had never built something like this before, and this newsletter has the potential of becoming a business if I decide to monetize it. So I was kind of learning from all angles. But jumping into details, the first problem was that came was I wasn't really good at writing. I used to read a lot. I loved reading, but like I said earlier, I did not know how to put it into like make content out of it. So after like a month after I got the idea for FC, I began reading different articles from different articles, different magazines, and different columns, essays by top founders, which actually helped me get a gist of how articles are structured and how they are written and how everything is placed and how everything is framed. That actually helped me a lot. So when I knew what I wanted to do, I kind of made a rough document of how I was gonna go about it and what topics I would actually focus on. So so the goal was to get the younger generation interested. So I had to come up with something that was insightful, digestible, and which provided value. So and I have no background in business and tech. So learning on the go about these topics was a challenge. And when I made that document, I kind of put everything together and I narrowed it down to business and tech. So when I wrote my first article about it, I wrote it and I sent it to my brother. So he helped me a lot with direction and guidance. So I was very lucky to have that.
I think you gloss over an important point, which is to just start first and figure it out on the while you go. And I think quite often people fall into the trap of learning everything there is to something before actually starting it, but then not, but they don't get around to actually starting it. So I think, so I think that's very important that you started it and figured it out as you go.
Yeah, actually, learning on the go is the best because you learn more on the go. There is no better experience than there is no better teacher than experience, like it said. So, if
Mhm.
I had not started this, I would still be contemplating on how to go about everything and try to learn how to write. But when I actually started writing, that is when I actually knew how to go about it. So, if I had not written that first article, maybe I wouldn't be here, um, and maybe FC would never have been born. So, you just have to start. Like, do not wait for the right moment. There is no right moment. You just have to start.
Yeah. And I think there is one important quote that I remember about this, which is that everything worth doing is worth doing poorly. Would you say you agree with that?
Yes, yes, I do.
I'm going to get to some of the more detail into the technical challenges in a bit. But before that, as you said, you read a lot, and of course, when you talk about news and newsletters, you always have to be wary of fake news, and it's seems to me that fake news is just this like new phenomenon that has been creeping up in maybe the last 5 years. What do you think about like false reporting in general, and how do you make sure that you stay clear of it, and how should how do consumers in general be how can consumers in general avoid it?
Yeah, so this is like a whole different kind of pressure on you because you are writing a newsletter which people are going to read and people are maybe going to use it in an argument sometime. So that is when you like I have to be very thorough or very particular about what I write and get my facts all right. So there is no chance of fake reporting here because it kind of it's kind of like misleading people if I write something wrong in my newsletter. So I try to read different articles from different sites which then I compile to make one whole article. So it's not based just on one article that I read. It's like a mixture of different articles that I read from different point of views and different people reporting it. So,
Hmm.
and about fake news has been going around a lot these days, especially on the messaging platforms. Uh,
Hmm.
that's uh, like, do not believe everything you read because unless it comes from a verified source, that is what I would like to say. So, if it comes
Hmm.
from a messaging platform, there is like a 90% chance that it's either photoshopped or it's wrong. If it does not
Hmm.
come from a verified site, like this has been going on around since the coronavirus came in, ever since the
Hmm.
pandemic started. So like,
Yeah.
different people coming in and saying, no, hot water helps you get rid of the virus, or turmeric milk gets you cures you of the virus. But no, that people tend to believe everything they read on WhatsApp because they think it's true. But then you have to read, you have to get out of that platform and go and read verified news to know that that particular thing is wrong. So, yes, That is how it's misleading, and it shouldn't be like that because yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a big problem that all of us have to deal with in general, and especially with how easy it is to manipulate and how easy it is to share images. I think it's just getting increasingly hard. In terms of your newsletter, have you ever thought about putting in the sources that you use, just like at the bottom, or is that not would that like just increase the word limit or something?
I don't really think there is a word limit to it, but then I try to keep it. Like I said, I try to keep it short. So I give a gist of what's going on in that particular news article. So I try to keep it short, and I attach a link at the bottom which says read more. So if you want to go in depth, you can always click on that link, and that link will lead you to the main news article. So even if you want to know the authenticity of the article, or if you want to verify, if you want to read in depth, so the link is always there at the bottom.
I see. And I want to touch over the topic that's on everyone's mind these days, which is coronavirus. How do you keep up with it? Because it's cha- it's changing so fast, and what's relevant yesterday might be proven false today, or something new might come up, or government restrictions change and the tally of cases yeah, changes. So how do you find it tough keeping up with that?
It's kind of tough because I have just started out, and in the beginning it was just me, and then I have added another person to the team. So uh, that helps a
Hmm.
bit. She helps me a lot trying to like.
Congratulations on that.
Yeah,
That's great
thank you so
progress.
much. Yes, that is. So that she actually reduces my work a lot. So about the
Hmm.
tally and all, I sent the newsletter in the morning, right? So I send it at 9 o'clock or like 8:30 to 9, and
Hmm.
so whenever there is a
Hmm.
change in the tally or there is a change in the news article, the news articles keep getting updated. So I try to keep up with that and make the edits accordingly, so that I do not provide expired or old information to the people, because I usually report today's news. I'll report it tomorrow. It's something like that. So I uh,
Hmm.
I try to keep it updated as much as I can.
And speaking of challenges, you mentioned something about emails, right? And getting through like Gmail's filters. Can you talk a bit about what that problem was?
First of all, I did not even know something like this existed early on, because this was very new to
Hmm.
me. And when I first sent out the first 3, 4 emails, uh, the first email that I sent went straight to the inbox, and the other 2, 3 emails that I sent were ended up in promotions. So I did not know why that was happening. So later on, I kind of figured out it was because maybe I was using the names of different brands, and then Google was filtering it out and taking it
Hmm.
straight to the promotions tab, because it thought maybe that I was sending uh, advertisements or something like that. So I was kind of dejected in the beginning because first
Hmm.
a few newsletters got less than 25 views. So, but then it was just the start,
Hmm.
right? So I have kind of figured it out along the way and as to how that works. And it's like sending multiple emails to myself and then testing it out as to what goes in the inbox and what doesn't. So I've kind of getting the hang of it.
I see. So you want to target the inbox tab instead of the promotions or updates tab, is it?
Yes, because uh, people here don't live through email. Like they will open an email either to check out an OTP or some other e-commerce or delivery notice that is coming, or track their order or something like that. Like people of our generation, at least. So,
Mm-hmm.
uh, so
Mm-hmm.
it's a bit difficult to get people to notice the email, and people tend to miss it a lot. And
Mm-hmm.
when it ends up in the promotions, it becomes a lot more difficult for me to get the newsletter out to people like that. So it really helps when it goes directly to the promotion,
Mm-hmm.
directly to the primary tab, so that a notification comes in your phone that Filter Coffee has sent out a newsletter. But when it goes in the promotions, there is no notification. The only chance that you are going to open is if you go to the email and click on the promotions tab. Otherwise, it's a no.
I see. So one thing people can do is there is a way to get emails from a certain sender always sent to a particular tab. Do you encourage your readers to do that? Because I think if you know what to do, it takes like maybe 15 seconds to do it, and after that, all emails from a certain sender end up in your inbox. Is that something you've thought about?
I had thought about it, but I did not really put it out there to tell people to do something like that, because people like to keep it like very smooth, because they do not want roadblocks. This is kind of actually my problem, that it's going in promotions, not theirs. So my job is to make sure that they get it right. So I was
Yeah.
thinking of actually putting out an email the next time I share the newsletter, saying either star it or push it to the promotions, push it to the primary tab so that you get notifications. So I've been thinking about it.
Hmm.
So haven't really put it into practice. So
And in terms of monetization and turning this into a business, what are your plans in that regards?
um, firstly, I when I started FC, I never thought it would be so widely received. Social media
Mm-hmm.
helped me a lot, like to get it to the right crowd. So word spread very quickly,
Mm-hmm.
and I have got plugged into very amazing circles. And we now have
Mm-hmm.
readers right from New York to LA to Tokyo to Bengaluru to Mumbai, and pretty much they are all the business and tech hubs. So that's great progress for me. So it's growing
Mm-hmm.
well, but right now I am not making money out of it. But the way it's growing,
Mm-hmm.
the speed at which it's growing, the popularity has made me think about monetizing FC, so that we can bring more content to people.
Mm-hmm.
But the main goal right now for me is not monetization, it's getting past 1000 subscribers. We are almost there, by the way. uh, After
Yeah.
that,
And you sent me a graph. You sent me a graph earlier, right?
yeah, yeah,
And I'm just looking at it. And if I were to describe it, it stays flat for a while. There is a sharp increase,
increase.
and then after that, the increase is roughly linear. The sharp increase was when you started the newsletter, is it?
Yes. When I started out the first three newsletters, I just wanted to kind of create a history of the newsletters. So I didn't really tell people to subscribe at that time. So I wrote a few newsletters first,
Mm-hmm.
and then I started putting it out, because people, like, this is a very new concept for people, and having a few other
Mm-hmm.
newsletters to refer to on the site would have made it a lot easier
Mm-hmm.
for people to get an idea of what I was actually trying to deliver. So
Mm-hmm.
doing that actually helped. And after I had like a history of 3 4 newsletters, I started pushing out the fifth newsletter to people, sending it. Like friends and family helped a lot by broadcasting it and sending it to as many people as they could. So that is when the
Mm-hmm.
sharp increase in subscribers happened. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
In terms of gaining popularity on social media, what do you think about podcast? I think At some point in your newsletters, you had mentioned that podcasts are gaining traction. And what do you think? Why do you think that's happening? And what advice would you have for me to get my podcast popular?
So, podcasts are gaining popularity as in people are mostly because it's you mostly work from home now, and people are at home with their laptops, the internet. So it's people tend to go and listen to podcasts and read stuff online. So it's basically uh, the uh, podcasts are doing good, and online content is doing good too. People tend to spend a lot of their time browsing, reading. So that is when podcasts gain popularity. And for you, the advice I am actually in no position to give you advice, but I still like to say that you could use social media in a more better way by putting out the podcasts and telling people about it, because I know it's very difficult to get people to notice, because in the beginning people tend to just ignore whatever you say. So uh,
Hmm.
you you try to get their attention somehow by posting about it continuously. So if you keep it dormant for a while, then people tend to ignore it or forget about it. So when it crosses their
Hmm.
feed again and again, when you read about filter coffee, or the podcast, so that is when people actually click on the link and they go there, because it's basically curiosity and the fear of missing out. So like, hey, what am I missing out on? So
Hmm.
that is why they click on the link, and yes, that is how you
Hmm.
gain popularity.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it. I think fear of missing out might be uh, a powerful driving factor for
It
to
is
get
actually,
people to
it is,
notice
because
what you're putting out. Yeah.
when you see a particular platform or a particular newsletter or a podcast doing so well, and then you think, hey, why have I not subscribed to this? This seems pretty cool. So then it
Hmm.
that fear of missing out automatically gets you to subscribe to it. That is what I have noticed.
In terms of filter coffee, I mean, we talked about this before as well throughout, but are there any particular set of challenges that you faced that you want to talk about in detail?
The set of challenges, like I said, the first one was I didn't know how to write at all. So reading different articles
Hmm.
helped. And
Did you read? Uh, is there any particular website or book that you followed that helped you uh, get better at writing?
nothing in particular, but I used to read articles or essays by top founders. So Paul Graham's essays and ideas on how to write better actually helped a lot, and other famous newsletters too, like The Hustle and
Hmm.
etc.
What would you say to people who are trying to uh, get their, maybe online or through social media business off the ground? I mean, some people just do it as a hobby, but some people might actually stand to make monetary profit out of their businesses, that just as you hope to one day. So what advice would you have for them?
Firstly, I would like to say that do not take too long to decide what you want to do, because if you once you have an idea, uh, try putting it into action. And if it's a complex idea, try breaking it down into different tasks so that they can seem doable. When you look at it as a whole, it always seems difficult. So when you break it down, it can be a lot easier to finish it. So if I had not started on the go, like if I had not figured it out on the go, I would have been still thinking about how to get it done. And nowadays, since people are working from home, a laptop and internet connectivity is all you need to get something started or do something. So do not think too much and keep an open mind. And uh, generally, there is a lot of content out on the internet, so which can be used to your benefit to create stuff. And if you have an idea, or if you don't do not know how to implement it, there are many people out there who are willing to help. Because personally, before I started FC, I never really knew how much effort or how much patience it went into even creating a YouTube video. But once you start doing something of your own, you tend to realize that yes, this takes a lot of effort, and a lot of effort goes into getting people to notice. And this is a struggle in itself. So, for anyone who wants to start anything new, I would tell them just start. Just all you need to do is start. So you can always learn on the go, and you can always talk to people who have already established themselves, or you can always reach out for help. And if anyone is listening to this podcast and who is get thinking of getting started, I would love to talk to them if that's useful. And also try staying away from criticism, because criticism is good only when it comes from people that you trust and not some random stranger on the internet. And don't be too self-critical, so you can like just start and learn along the way. That is what's important.
I actually have a different point of view about criticism, and because so right now you have a thousand, close to 1,000
Yes.
subscribers, and maybe you would personally know 50 or 100 of them that subscribe. So that is feedback that you can trust. But when, especially, let's say when your newsletter goes to, let's say, 10,000 viewers or 100,000 viewers, you're not going to know, you'll probably personally know less than 1% of your subscribers, right?
Yes.
So in when that happens, you most criticism that you get will be from random strangers and not people you trust.
You have to learn how to filter out the criticism too, because all criticism, according to me, is not always good criticism. Because
Hmm.
uh, criticism can be of two kinds, like constructive and destructive. So whatever helps you do better and improve is always good criticism, I would like to say. And if it tells you that
Hmm.
your newsletter is not good, or that something like that, so that is that you need to filter it out. So you need to focus on only on the good, so that you keep going and it does not hinder the ability to create content and reach out to more people. So just focus on the good.
I think, do you remember that line from the movie Guru, which Abhishek Bachchan says?
No.
He says that, I mean, I'll translate it in English, but he says that if few people are talking against you or criticizing you, it means that you're making progress.
Progress. Oh, I remember it. Yes, yes.
Yeah. So I think, uh, yeah, that's a nice way to look at criticism. I had one a few questions towards the end, and one of them is, why did you name this filter coffee?
Oh, okay. So when I started out, we had to come up with a name before we actually put out stuff there. So
Hmm.
I couldn't really. This was like the best of the worst. So I don't really think coming up with any other name. Maybe I did, but I cannot recall it at the moment. So filter coffee was like, this would be kind of widely accepted because it's not something lame or not something boring. So I kind of knew that it would be accepted, and that is how we just while thinking. And people read this in the morning, right? So it's either tea or coffee in the morning. So that is how you start your day. So it's filter coffee. So That is how it uh, came up, the name.
And what does your day to day look like? How many hours? So you put it out 6 days a week, right? So how many hours does it take each day for you and you recently had someone else help you out, right? So how long does it take for the both of you?
So, in the beginning, it was like 9 or 8 hours a day. So my whole day
Mm-hmm.
was spent making it, laying it out, and editing stuff and everything. And now that I have got the hang of it, it's become a whole lot easier to just read through stuff, read through different articles. The speed of reading has also increased. The
Mm-hmm.
speed of typing has increased too, and it's been like it's gonna be 2 months in a few days now. So it's become a whole lot easier with the another person on the team too, because we can create more content. We can create look out for more news articles and make the newsletter more better and not keep it limited.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so it's almost like a full-time job.
Yeah, it is like a full time job.
Towards the end, do you want to tell our listeners how to subscribe to Filter Coffee or what website they should visit?
It's there on filtercoffee.substack.com, or you can look out for Filter Coffee Media on Instagram, uh,
Mm-hmm.
or for www.filtercoffee.co. You can
Mm-hmm.
check the newsletter out, and you can subscribe to it there.
All right. I think that's a good note to end on. I thank you for joining the podcast. I hope you get to your subscriber goals soon and turn your newsletter into a profitable business.
Thank you so much for having me, Vignesh, and it was very nice talking to you.
Yeah, I hope you had as much fun as I did.
Yes, I did for sure. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks.